What is that, like Mark 15?
Yeah, something like that. You know, everybody needs a hobby.
Oh.
What's going on, guys? Logan JYA here. I'm back at the old stomping ground in the DMV, and we were able to go undefeated 5-0 today at our local OTS, or my former local OTS, and I'm going to show you guys the brand new up-to-date Drytron deck profiles. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, we're going to start things off with the main deck. I'm going to keep it pretty brief for you guys. Triple copies of Alpha, triple copies of Zeta, 2 copies of Gamma, and 2 copies of Delta. This is the new golden ratio, guys. You got to do this. These are the numbers that work, especially for a build like this. So just be sure to stick to that game plan. You're going to be 100% fine. Moving on from there, triple copies of Ben 10. You're playing any less, you're absolutely insane. Natasha is always the MVP. You already know. Hopefully this card never gets banned, but it may need to. 1 Draco Nids. This was one big mistake from my Vegas list, was not playing this card. I will never cut this card again. It comes up all the time. I am so thankful to be playing it again. And finally, the Chaos Max for the Degenerate lock with Dynamo. Moving on from there, we are still playing Vanity's Ruler as the main win con and normal summon. Again, if you have just Alpha Zeta and nothing else usable, you're going for Vanity's Ruler. This is your guy in a blank scenario because it's the easiest way to play around hand traps, especially Nibiru. You do it in under 5 summons. If you haven't already seen it, we got a video on how to do that on the channel. Moving on, we've got 1 copy Diviner for the other normal summon. You need no more than 1 in a Vanity's Ruler build. And our searchable hand traps, 1 Orange Light and 1 Lancia. Absolutely legendary against Kashtira, Flunder, anything. You're all set, trust me. Spell cards. This is another mistake from my Vegas list. I was doing 1 and 3. It should be 2 and 2. So 2 Fafnir and 2 Nova. This is just standard at this point, and 2 Ritual Spell. You always have to play 2 Ritual Spell with Kashtira running around. You don't want to risk this getting banished. Triple copies of Emergency for maximized consistency, and then the goaded card is still Thrust. I've bumped it down to 2 to keep the deck at 40. That's what the Draco Nids came in for, was the 3rd copy of Thrust. It is a hard once per turn, so I think getting away with 2 is acceptable. And yeah, man, this card just steals games. It's one of the most powerful going second cards you can have, especially playing into a Kashtira board. Just today, usual deal, thrusted for a triple tactics talents and was able to force him to banish his own Arise Heart. It just lets you play. Moving on from there, the 1 Change of Heart, one of the best targets for the Thrust. Same thing with the triple tactics talents. Other power 1-ups include Foolish, which you can search off it. The Prep, which you can search off of it going second, which is really good. I wish I had more room for more copies of this card. Unfortunately, I do not. But Prep, of course, you still want to play it as a 1-of, and when you're going second in your opponent's activator effect, you're basically playing 3 copies of the card. 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. This has been a relatively recent addition for the main deck, given the prevalence of back row decks nowadays. I think it makes sense to main deck the 1 copy of Harpy's. Again, it's searchable off the Thrust. I'm still playing the Triple Book of Eclipse in the main. I did play against Kashtira, did not end up seeing it. That's all right. I still think it's a pretty good card against Cash. It gets branded if you don't get puppet locked in game 1. It's not a terrible thing. It outs a lot of boards, so it's a generically good removal card. A lot of people are off this card. I'm still on it at this point. Yes, it can be Ash, but I still think it's worth it. And finally, the 1 Sacked by the Grave. I didn't use it today, but I did use Orange Light a few times. The hard drawn Orange Light was pretty nice. That's the main. Going on to the extra. Things that will never change. 2 copies of Moy Beta. Of course, Fuko came up a lot today. I ended up getting shifted. I summoned Fuko. It let me live, and it let me win that game. Fuko, absolutely important. Same thing goes for the Downerd. To go with the Zeus package, I still enjoy playing the Downerd. Sometimes you need the extra sends, and you have to play 2 Zeus for obvious reasons, Kashtira, and the 1 Beatrice for your 1-name hands or for your extension. You gotta play. Link Monsters, the 1 Anima. I did use its effect to force out a Baldrake today against Bestial Dragon Link. Definitely worth it. The 1 Nightmare Phoenix for back row removal. I think this is pretty important nowadays as well. The 1 IP Masquerena, the 1 Herald of the Mirage Lights. This is a key piece of your standard end board. We're going for Alpha Zeta game 1 with nothing else. The 1 copy of Dynamon for the Chaos Lock, and the 1 Boral Sword for closing out games. In this build, this is the card that makes the most sense to go into. You don't really want to play Access Code in a build like this. Finally, the 2 copies of the Arclight and the Entis for the Herald targets. Wrap things up, we've got the side deck, which is triple copies of Lava Golem. This was pretty good. It was pretty good. I actually have Volcanic Queens on order right now. That's something I'm going to be testing as well for the people who do go Rise Heart Pass. Lava Golem is not going to do much for you, right? So Volcanic Queen is a kaiju that Drytron can actually play because it cannot be normal under set. So we'll be testing that out as well. But for now, it's the Lava Golems. Feel free to change it if you so desire. And this card, MVP, one of the biggest changes that I made recently, but I'm so glad that I did. Triple copies of Ash Blossom. I put it in for branded. Didn't end up playing against any branded today, but that's all right because it still puts in so much work. In fact, I brought this in against the mirror match and was able to Ash Alpha. That felt very, very good. I hate it when it happens to me, but it's all right when we do it to somebody else. 2 copies of Lancia, the additional 2 copies. You bring this in against Kashtira, Flunder, Dragon Link. There's so many decks to bring this in against, and it's phenomenal. You have to play it. 2 copies of Cosmic. I'm still going for the strategic spell and trap removal rather than the mass removal and things like Lightning Storm, Evenly Match. I actually completely cut Evenly Match from this list. You might think that's a mistake, but for me, I haven't missed it yet. So Cosmic, I'm keeping that in. It's mostly out of respect for Runic, which we're seeing on the up and up more and more nowadays. 2 copies of the Triple Tactics Talents, of course. This is the other 2 copies you can bring in when you're going first. A little iffy if I'm going to keep them going on, but again, they're more outs to Arise Heart, right? So it's another phenomenal card to play for going first or second in that situation. And finally, I'm still doing the 1 Beto Buster and the Magic Unlocking for when you go first, and the 1 Dimensional Barrier as your searchable thrust target when you go first for decks like Branded or Kashtira. That's the whole list. So there are some keynote changes from the Vegas list. Before I wrap this up, I want to give a huge shout out to Team Beige, the boys. Be sure to go subscribe to them. So happy and proud to be repping it. Link will be in the description down below. But with that, I'm going to sign off here. Logan JYA, sign off. Have a great day. I'll see you beautiful people later. Peace.
心の隙間埋め